Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Patty Brennan Show. Whether you have $20 or $200 million, this show is for those of you who want to protect, grow, and use your assets to live your very best lives. I am so excited about today's podcast because what we're doing here at Key Financial is we have a theme for every month. I just received the Certified Exit Planning Advisor designation, which is really a terrible name for the designation. It's about exit planning, but it's really not. It's really a program. It's like drinking water from a fire hose. And I learn in the program how to manage my business in a way so that we are ready for anything. And they talk about the three legs of the stool. Am I ready personally, individually? Is my family ready? Is the business ready to go on without me? And are we financially ready? How much do we need if we are going to have a liquidity event, et cetera? Most financial advisors like us come in after the fact. After the business is sold, they get the cash, they set up the portfolio, figure out the cash flow, the taxes, the estate plan. That's too late. What I learned from the SIPC program is, first of all, only 20 to 30% of businesses that go up for sale actually get sold. And those owners who did sell got a lot less than they anticipated. And a year later, 75% profoundly regretted selling their business. So we're going to learn today why that might be and share some of the things that we learned in the SIPC program. So the question is, what happens when you are no longer part of this business, right? What happens if it disappears entirely? As much as we all want to hope that we can control the timing and the terms of our exit, let's face it, things happen. We had an experience with a business here locally that had a valuation of $30 million. They got the valuation, they got their baseline, and yet the owner passed away very suddenly. The value of that business halved because while they had done the beginning of it, the business itself wasn't ready for the transition. So, let's stop kidding ourselves. Whether we want to admit it or not, it is an undeniable fact that whether we are business owners, whether we are working in a company, whether we are a doctor, a lawyer, there will be a point in time when there's going to be a transition. So let's stop kidding ourselves and let's get ourselves ready. So joining me today is AJ Jones. He is the founder of More. And AJ, I'm going to let you explain to our listeners and people watching today what More is all about. I will just tell you a story. One of our own clients sold their business about 5 years ago. And a couple months after, I will tell you, AJ, he called me and he said, Patty, he said, do you know of any organizations for people like me who sold their businesses and just want to have kind of group therapy, talk to other business owners who went through the same things that I'm going through right now? And I had to tell him, pretend his name is Jim. Jim, actually, I don't really know of any organization like that. And then I met you at a conference. You and I were sitting at the head table. And folks, for those of you who are watching and listening, AJ Jones is the coolest guy on earth. It was literally 2 minutes and there was no superficial talk. We got deep and real right away. And I love that about you, AJ. So I wonder if you could help. Why don't you kind of frame this? Tell us your story, because you've got quite the story.
Well, Patty, thank you so much for that intro. And the feeling is entirely mutual. It's not often you go to a conference and you sit next to someone, a total stranger, and really connect on a very deep and authentic level. And you and I did that. And I've just been so grateful for that chance meeting. And I'm grateful for our friendship and partnership. So thank you so much for having me. Yeah. So I guess the question is, what's my story, right? And how I got here. And for your listeners, I was in financial services and wealth and asset management. I worked at firms like Wells Fargo and BlackRock and Charles Schwab. But I will tell you, I want to go back in time for a minute. It was October 8th, 2016. At the time, I lived in Marin County, California, which is just over the Golden Gate Bridge from San Francisco, just to paint a picture for your listeners.
Mhm.
I commuted 3 hours a day in and out of the city to get to work. And that was my normal. My wife and I were raising our kids, and this was my life. And I had nice compensation, and I was able to do some impactful things for the businesses and my employers for whom I worked. That October 8th was a Saturday, a quintessentially beautiful fall morning in Northern California, and I went mountain biking with 3 friends of mine. And it was on this mountain bike ride that I suffered a massive widowmaker heart attack.
Oh,
A full-blown, and none of us knew it at the time. I lost all the strength in my legs. I became incredibly nauseous. I want to keep it polite, but you can only imagine there was a lot of vomiting and distress.
Mhm.
Eventually, a pain set in my chest, and I, at the time, thought it was due to sushi that I had a father-daughter dinner the night before. So I thought I just drew the short straw and had sashimi with a side of bacteria instead of a side of wasabi or something. And so that was my mental model as this was all happening. And then my fingers, my index and pinky fingers in both hands went tingly numb. And at that time, we were able to get to the bottom of the trail, and my friend had a car there, and he whisked me to the hospital where the nurses and the ER team wasted no time putting defibrillators on my chest and getting me into the cath lab, where they proceeded to basically save my life. When I was on the operating table, my left anterior descending artery was fully occluded.
oh my God.
When I got out of the hospital, I was put on leave from work for 4 months, and I was very grateful for that.
Yeah.
I would lay in bed, stare at the ceiling, quite frankly, Patty, and wonder why I survived. You don't have a widowmaker up on the trails on your mountain bike and walk out of it very often. I am one of the lucky ones. I'm grateful to be here every day, as I hope we all are. But as I laid in bed and wondered why I survived and what do I do next? Like, I don't know. I don't have any training in being a heart attack survivor. Where do I go? And what do I do with this? I'd ask the universe, what do I do? Do I go back to my job and that commute? Do I resign and try to write the next great American novel, or become a teacher, or stay-at-home dad? Our kids were in middle school at the time. And the universe answered, use your story to help and inspire people. And for me, I had no idea how I was going to do that, but it was a mission that I grabbed onto. Like, this is it. This makes all the sense in the world. I had been very busy doing corporate strategy for the firms I mentioned, oftentimes outside of the Wells Fargo world, but with the other two in the asset management space, promoting and selling and distributing 40 Act products, mutual funds and exchange traded funds. But suddenly everything had shifted for me, and my soul was centered now around, how do I help people? And it was a glorious sensation. Like, this is it. Now I think I know what I can do with myself. It's very clear, but I don't know how to get there. And so, quite frankly, I went back to work and realized that it wasn't for me. And so I resigned, and a friend of mine worked for an RIA, registered investment advisor, and very kindly offered me the job to help him with some strategy work. And I started to figure out this whole help and inspire others category and what to do. And so I started to blog. I started to do some public speaking for the American Heart Association. And ultimately, I was centered around 3 things: heart disease prevention and awareness. 2 was around adoptee reunion and advocacy. I'm an adoptee, and as a result of my heart attack, I found my biological family. And that story in and of itself is I'm very blessed. It's a Hallmark movie, if you will. Very, very wonderful reunion. And then the 3rd piece was about finding yourself and being true to who you are. With time, I launched a podcast myself called Profound Awesomeness, just a nights and weekends project during COVID, and ultimately decided that it was time to really jump into this space of helping people. So I created a business called More. And More is a platform. It's a career transformation and wellness platform that is based around, it's a destination for, as we like to say, accomplished professionals at a crossroads. And we launched this business, believe this or not, Patty, we launched this business last January, in January 2024. In April of last year, I came home from the gym, Saturday, April 13th, to an empty house. And no sooner had I walked in the door than I experienced my 2nd widowmaker heart attack. I called my wife, and she said, "What are you doing? Call 911. I called 911. It was a 3-minute and 40-second call till I heard lights and sirens outside my house. And it wasn't long before I was in the cabin of the ambulance in a code 3 situation. which is, pretty dire. And they got me to the hospital with lights and sirens and horns blaring and all the things racing through all the intersections. And I'm just, again, very grateful to be here. But that steeled and fortified my desire to continue on this path that I have unfinished business to do. And so more committed than ever to the more mission and just helping people find clarity and courage and confidence to find and discover their next chapter.
Which is incredible that you used your health experiences, the tragedies that you had to live through. And guys and girls who are listening and watching this program, a widowmaker is no joke. People do not survive widowmakers. The left and the LAD artery that AJ referred to is where the blockage is. And if you get an embolus from there, you're a dead duck. I hate to tell you. So take care of your hearts. It's amazing that you survived not just one, but two of them. It's crazy, AJ. Amazing. And we're so grateful that you did so that you could bring your mission out to all of us. So let's start here. Why do you think so many people struggle after they've made that transition? And what I am so fascinated with is that you are so much like most of the people who are listening and watching our program today. You were a grinder. You've got grit. You've got that resilience. You kept going and you moved up that corporate ladder. And you were, like I said, you were the man. And you still are, by the way. And I'm just curious, being of that same mentality, etc., why do you think so many people struggle as they transition out of that rat race?
I was talking to a friend of mine who's just hit his 60s, very successful in the bankruptcy space. And I was asking him this question. I'm like, you could absolutely retire tomorrow with everything you need. And you could play golf every day. He loves golf and all these things. And he said, AJ, I don't know if I'd be relevant anymore.
Right.
And that really hit me hard. And I think it's kind of a lead into your question. I think a lot of people do struggle with what is my relevance? We've been so wired to drive towards some outcome, some goal, whether it's a successful business that I've created or to get to the C-suite or the EVP level or managing partner of the law firm or whatever it is. And it comes with a massive cost. And we've sacrificed other elements of our life. And then when the thing we've been most obsessed with and most nurtured around is gone, we don't know what to do. And we're lost. And I think this is, I hate to see that. And one of my mortal enemies, Patty, is this notion of suffering in silence. If what I do with more can help people not suffer in silence, and no one sits down in the morning and has a cup of coffee and says, honey, I'm suffering in silence today. But
right.
We all know what it means, I believe. And if we could solve for that, let's go for it.
Let's go for it is right. I tell everybody, here's the deal. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. That's the purpose of our program today, to teach people how they don't have to suffer. Don't do that to yourself. Let's just get prepared for that thing that is inevitable at some point in our lives. We're going to stop kidding ourselves. We are going to get older. Things are going to happen. And I love the platform. When we were talking, and by the way, to kind of summarize what you just said, what I'm hearing is that people lose their sense of purpose and their daily structure. There's a shift in their social connections and they kind of find themselves, now what? I mean, your friend might love golf, but there's just so much golf he's going to be able to play. There are so many places he's going to travel. The idea that retirement or stopping work is, you're on a bike with your significant other who really doesn't want you around all day long. It's a fairy tale, right? So you have a unique way of describing the asset allocation or I think you called it the personal wealth platform. Can you tell us more about that?
Absolutely. And for speaking to a successful advisor like you, I'm excited to talk about asset allocations and overweight and underweight these allocations. So I call it the personal wealth portfolio. And I'm going to ask our listeners to sort of come on this journey with me and just think about life, if you will, in three asset classes for this process. The first is financial capital. This is savings, wealth, and I would dare say accumulation of things, possessions. That's bucket asset allocation one, financial capital. The other asset class is social capital. This is your relationships, your connections to your community. You're working with mentors, working with others, maybe as a mentor yourself or a volunteer. And then the third asset class is personal capital. And this would be things like health and your legacy and your passion projects and things that truly light you up beyond making a nice paycheck, right? And so those would be the three asset classes: financial capital, social capital, and personal capital. And I think in life, as we look around, if we're being, and one of the things I talk a lot about it more, one of the core tenets is radical honesty with yourself.
Yes.
This is where you've got to really take off all of the masks that you wear, the expectations that are around you, just shove them to the side and look hard and deep inside what's really important and who you really are and what your behavior patterns ultimately are presenting. I think for the high achievers and the super focused, we tend to overweight that financial capital bucket, right? We put a lot of time and we invest a lot there at the risk of the social capital asset class and the personal capital asset class. I think, and what I argue for is that those asset classes have to be much more balanced, and you have to trim some out of the financial capital and redeploy it into those other two asset classes. And I think with life and what stage in life, these asset classes are going to shift. I don't know that I would say they are locked in. It's a third. It's evolutionary. They evolve with what's happening in your life. But I would ask people to really be honest, like, where are you at? If you have your awake hours during the week, where are you spending your time? Yes, work takes up a lot of hours, but are you investing and committing to those other asset classes? And if you've avoided those other two asset classes through life, suddenly when the financial capital asset classes not existed in that way anymore, you're kind of left going, oh, right. So anyways, yeah, go ahead, Patty.
And to your point, I've basically told I tell my kids, to have a friend, you have to be a friend, and you have to show up for people, whether show up for your community. You just can't say these things. You have to show up and invest in those other areas to create more balance in your lives. And it's okay. We all go through different seasons of life. Early in my career, I had no balance. I had my work and then I had my family. I have 4 children, and that had to be okay right then because there's just so much bandwidth each of us has. And slowly over time, I realized that I needed to add some of those other areas, and so I did. The community, teaching CCD, bringing my kids to be student teachers, things of that nature, and just had to get creative to be able to do those things to create more balance. In the end, I look back at some of those choices. I'm really glad that I made them because we're still part of that community because we showed up. And I love the way you frame it in terms of the asset allocation. And you've lived it, haven't you? You've experienced what it's like not to have your health and to really have to hyper-focus and overweight that particular area to get yourself back on sound footing, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I had to trim my exposure in the first bucket, the financial capital bucket, because you speak of, if we put health in the personal capital, yeah, that was a massive asset class I needed to invest in. I think one thing I'd like to add, Patty, is and this is on Moore's website, we talk about our methodology there. And one of the first things that we talk about is establishing self-compassion. When you're entering transition or you're looking for seeking transformation and change in what you're doing. And I think this can be applied to a lot of things in life. We start it more with career, but career and life are so intertwined. Yes. But that first step around self-compassion, I think we don't often give ourselves that space. And it's a little woo-woo probably for a lot of the listeners here, but it's so important to understand that we are humans, we're projects, as you said at the top of the show. Like, it's okay. It's okay to not have the answers. It's okay to take a time out to go for a walk and unplug and just be with yourself. It's okay. And once you can't build a house on a shaky foundation, right? We know this. So that self-compassion is getting that foundation nice and solid, and then we build from there. And I think for people who've sold their business and they're struggling, like, it's okay. Like, practice some self-compassion for yourself.
Exactly. Be kind to yourself because
That's right.
Other people have gone through it. There's mentors out there. There's more. Learn from others. That's how I've gotten through life. I love that idea of self-compassion too, because we're so hard on ourselves.
So hard.
We've all got imposter syndrome. When you and I met, we were sitting at the head table at the Dow Jones Barron's conference. I'm thinking to myself, what am I doing here at the head table at the Barron's conference? And I don't believe my own press. I just am a nurse, a former nurse who slowly but surely learned that the most important thing that I needed to do is get great people on my team to be an extension of this thing that we've built over time. And it's really, really important to be compassionate with ourselves. And most people aren't. Most people listening and watching the show, they're drivers, right? They've got resilience, they've got grit. What's all this fluffy stuff about, right? And yet it's not fluffy, because whether we realize it or not, we're going to self-sabotage. And that hurts not only ourselves, but everybody around us. And it takes somebody like you, AJ, to call us out on it. Fortunately, in my experience, I had a colleague of mine call me out, and I've been working on it ever since.
Well, I tell you what, and we talked about this earlier, I really hope that people take a look in the mirror and understand the pressure that they're putting on themselves. And please intervene before you have what happened to me twice. Like, it's not worth it. It's really not worth the cost.
Yeah.
There's a way you can change the dials in your life, or the asset allocation classes like we talked about, to get the balance and to go easy on yourself. So important.
So, AJ, what would you suggest? What are 3 steps that, whether they're a business owner, they're an attorney, a doctor, working at a high level in a corporation, what are the 3 steps that listeners should take today if they want to set themselves up for success in that next season of life?
Yeah. So here's what I would say. The first thing I would do is really do a holistic, and using that element of radical honesty, what are the core values in your life? Whatever they are. And the values you had when you started your career, probably, I'm guessing, would not be the values that you hold dear now, your non-negotiables. And I think that is massively important. When Patty, I wrote, last summer after my second heart attack, I wrote a book, and it's going to be coming out next year. When I sat there in my garden, post-heart attack number 2, I asked myself, like, where's the source of joy? Like, I've touched death's door twice, and I should know some things about survivorship and what's really, really, really important. And what I came to the conclusion was, quite frankly, is that when we get truly authentic and honor our authentic selves and express that authenticity in the way that honors it, we will be so much freer and can find a flower state, potentially, hopefully, for people. And so that led me to create the methodology that is ultimately Moore's methodology now. So first step, to answer your question, values. Get really real with, develop a list of your 5 values, whatever they are: learning, fun, travel, responsibility, whatever they are. Write them down. Number 2 is, once you've done that, you have to understand, what does success look like for you going forward? This is such a critical thing. I think we're so used to climbing a certain ladder, and we have traditional markers of success, of achievement, accomplishment, prestige, recognition, top 10 lists, best advisor list, whatever it is. That authentic success needs to be different. Once you've listened and tuned into yourself, which is hard to do, it takes time. It's not going to happen in 5 minutes. What are your markers? More time with family. I'm going to start painting as an expression of something within that has to come out. I don't know, whatever it is, that's vitally important. And you work that into your life. Like, my success markers aren't $10 bazillion in savings. It's actually a few more hours a week with my family and volunteering for a charity, or sitting on a board, unpaid nonprofit board for something that you care deeply about, whatever it is. So I think those are 2 of the first steps. And then I think which I firmly believe in is finding the community of others who are going through transformation and transition as well. I think we are all too often lone wolfing things. And if you look at people who go through transitions and transformations, it can be facilitated through the support of others in a great community. So if you look at people who are recovering from alcohol, right? There's AA, or pregnant mothers for the first time, like new mommy groups, or newly divorced dads groups, whatever the transition is. I think those groups can really help to provide support, can provide social proof, can be help with accountability, can be shoulder to cry on when needed. So those would be that would be my 3-step plan for you.
I love that. And I love that last one, finding community, because it is so important. You brought up the 12-step programs. I'm part of a family group, parents of, kids who have gone through addictions. And it's ironic because our kids are all recovering, and that's a process in and of itself. We were together during our crises and we helped each other, and we continue to go back to these meetings to help other parents who are currently going through it. It's an incredible thing. And again, we all have this feeling like we want to belong to something and have meaning and have purpose and make a difference in other people's lives. And what's interesting about that is that my life has gotten so complicated, I haven't been able to go to the meetings. And I was texting my friends who helped my husband and I get through our most difficult time. And it's like a warm blanket. I'm so excited to get together with all these people because, like it was with you, AJ, there's no superficial stuff, right? They saw us at our worst moments, saw the chaos, the dysfunction, and we were able to get through it because of those people, because they had been through it. These programs, they don't necessarily give advice. They just talk about what they did to get through it. Anyway, it's a really belonging to a community. You're right. We learn so much from each other, and it's good for our souls. And you've got the community. You're building it. You've got a retreat coming up. I know in November, right? Tell us more about that. What's your plan for that? I love the way you described it to me because it is very different than most programs.
Thanks for saying that, Patty. Yeah, thanks for that plug. So we are heading to Costa Rica here in November, and we do have some seats available if anyone is interested. But our approach at More is, one of the key tenets to More is helping people, action-oriented. When you think of like our target audience, they're accomplished professionals, they're achievers, all the things. There is some woo-woo that we do at More, like I talked about, established self-compassion and stuff like that, and a lot of inward-looking stuff. But then it's about moving forward and helping you move forward with confidence, clarity, and courage. So the retreat is it's a week in Costa Rica. And it's what I like to say, it's an exploration in the truest definition of the word. Both we are there, we're exploring. We're going to be going into the blue zones, meeting with entrepreneurs down there. But then each day is capped with one of the phases of Moore's methodology. But what I think ultimately where we were talking that you're responding to was our approach is a before, during, and after approach. So before you get there, we're going to be doing workshops starting in October around values, around limiting beliefs. So your gears are moving and you've done a lot of soul work before you've touched down in Liberia Airport. And then we go through the 7 days down there. And when you come home, we have accountability meetings with you, myself and another coach from the More platform to help you feel, supported. You'll obviously have your retreat participants who will be part of your cohort to support you. We just talked about community, and then we will help just keep you on track. Whatever that step is, a micro step, a massive, bold leap, whatever it is, let's help you take that, because momentum begets momentum, as I think we all know, in whatever direction, and just get you moving and out of that beautiful space in Costa Rica where you might have had some great aha epiphany or whatever that is for you. Let's make it happen. Let's not lose it there on the shores of the ocean in Costa Rica.
Of that concept, and it's action oriented. Sure, there's going to be some fluff, but I have learned that whenever I go to a conference, whenever I learn something, when I'm on the airplane flying home, I'm reviewing my notes and I'm making decisions. What am I going to act on right away? Because otherwise, to your point, it gets lost. And I love the way that you follow through and you support. I think that is so important. So AJ Jones, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for talking about, giving us your story and talking about a vulnerable period in your life, because many people are going through the same thing. So thanks. And by the way, thanks to all of you who are tuned in and are listening. If our conversation today has sparked some soul searching, go to our website at Key Financial Inc. We have something new on the website. It's a tab called the Vitality Hub. And we are going to be putting resources on the Vitality Hub that really will help you with tools and strategies and resources like AJ Jones and more that you can tap into yourselves. Don't kid yourself. You're going to go through something eventually. Set yourself up for success in life, just as you have in your careers. I am Patty Brennan. Thank you so much for joining us today. Again, we're Key Financial Wealth Management with wisdom and care. And AJ Jones, thank you so much for the love and care you've extended to me over the years, as well as all of our listeners today. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Patty. Thank you so much for having me. And if I could just say one thing as you're talking, you are not the light at the end of the tunnel. I see you as a light in the tunnel going through it, showing the way. And it's very powerful in the time that I've gotten to know you, that this is sort of your role for people. So it's just, you're wonderful. It's just been a great opportunity to speak with you and get to know you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, AJ. Thank you for saying that. That made my month, I will tell you. So thank you for joining me today, and thanks to all of you as well. Take care.